The January 6th hearing taking a prime time spot for its 8th outing. But how much of this is political and what does it mean from a legal standpoint? Joining us now to discuss this is our legal panel. We have former California Assemblyman Mike Gatto and counsel at the National Legal and Policy Center, Paul Kamenar. We appreciate you both being with us. Assemblyman, I want to kick it off with you. What were your takeaways from Thursday's primetime hearing?
Well, I mean, look, it was really a fascinating hearing. You know, I think a lot of people on both sides were shocked at some of the stuff that came out there. But in case you're wondering about the constitutionality of these type of hearings, I mean, there are lawmakers like me who believe that they don't happen often enough. The first such hearing happened in 1795. There's a long tradition in our country of Congress having the subpoena power and the power to do these investigative hearings. And so, look, they're welcome. As a former lawmaker, they're welcome from people like me.
Okay, Paul, I want to get your take.
Well, first of all, what we saw in the hearings on Thursday and even the last 7 or 8 did not fulfill the House resolution that set up the committee, and that is to see what were the causes and legislative remedies for what happened, not enforcement remedies. You have Liz Cheney trying to be a wannabe junior prosecutor and a law enforcement agency of the committee. That's not their proper role. Where were the hearings on the lax security by the Capitol Police, the FBI, the DC Police, et cetera? The Inspector General laid out clearly that the intelligence was there days and weeks beforehand, and the security was not there. You had a couple bicycle racks up instead of proper fences. As for the legality of the committee, that is being litigated in court. And I've been following that and involved in one of those actions. Just for an example, the House resolution says there shall be 13 members on this committee. There are only 9. And in court, the House committee said, oh, that doesn't matter. Pelosi can appoint any number she wants. 5, 2, 1. I mean, they don't even follow their own rules. And in terms of their subpoena power, it's clear it's been abused. They sent out subpoenas to 1,000 or more witnesses, going after the phone records of hundreds of citizens whose only crime was to be there at the rally and pass out a couple posters. They did not breach the Capitol, et cetera. So this committee has gone amok, and they're not pointing the finger at themselves in terms of their lax security. So I think that they can be criticized for that.
Mike Gatto, one of the biggest arguments on this has been the fact that there has been no cross-examination from these witnesses. Republicans have taken issue with the fact that when you play that part of Trump's speech at the ellipse, they always cut off the word peacefully. They conveniently cut the clip right then and there. And then in the hearing room, I was in Thursday's hearing. Not only did I hear commentary seated behind me from congressional Democrats, but the room at one point erupted into laughter when there was a clip of Republican Senator Josh Hawley running and fleeing the Capitol. I mean, this is not the conduct of what would happen in a courtroom. And, and then they bring on this national security, White House national security representative that wants to anonymously testify. But we're also not hearing from Secret Service agents themselves. There's a clip right there.
Well, first of all, I mean, look, it's very, very hard not to laugh when you see Hawley running through the Capitol.
But do you think people would be laughing if that was a Democrat? I mean, Democrats right now are the ones that are, there were lawmakers behind me that were tearing up during the hearing.
I mean, look, I presided over legislative sessions, and, sometimes something will happen. There was one session where I was presiding and a baby started crying every time that one of my more annoying colleagues opened up his mouth. And he wanted me to do something about it. And the reality is you really can't control crowds in legislative hearings. This is not a court of law. This is a congressional hearing. And, they're allowed to do what they want. I mean, to say, gee, we're so shocked that it's getting politicized, that's like saying we're shocked that there's gambling in Casablanca. this is a political process. This is a congressional legislative hearing, and the majority party is going to politicize it. There's a long tradition of that in our country. There is one thing that Paul said that I want to disagree with. He said that, there's a question about whether the committee can appoint who it wants and so on and so forth. No court of law, and I mean, you can take this prediction to the bank. No court of law is going to interfere with how Congress does its internal doings. They're not going to say, gee, the speaker, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, that they've got to appoint a certain number of people to a congressional committee. That's a separation of powers. That's fundamental. No court of law in this country is going to disagree with that.
Paul, I'll let you pick up on that.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that because it is in the D.C. Court of Appeals, RNC versus Pelosi. And I guess what you're suggesting is, the Congress doesn't have to abide by their own rules. They can make it up as they go along. And it's clear that this is a political show that's going on. And it's amazing that everybody's talking about the vote count being challenged, and no one talks about the fact that in 2004, Pelosi and the Democrats challenged 130,000 votes in Ohio that went to George Bush, which they said were transferred over from Kerry because the voting machines were hacked and so forth, the internet. Does that sound familiar? So you don't hear about that. You also don't hear about that after Trump's rally. You're right. They cut out where he said to march peacefully. There were 6 actual demonstrations.
Unfortunately, guys, this is such a robust discussion. We could definitely continue this into the next segment, but that's all the time we have for now. Assemblyman Mike Otto and Paul Kamenar, we appreciate you both being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.